Okay, the second half of chapter one talks about the 10 key financial principles that we'll be dealing with throughout the semester. We're going to talk about these directly and indirectly for the rest of the semester. These principles form the foundation for making good financial decisions. Principle number one, the best protection is knowledge. A lot of people don't understand personal finance because they didn't have a class on it in high school. Their parents didn't talk to them about it. And they kind of feel intimidated about it. It's not rocket science, okay? I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and if I can do this stuff, anybody can do it. But you need to know. We need to ask questions. You need to have up-to-date financial information. When you don't know what to do with personal finance, ask somebody, okay? Whether it's ask me or ask a financial planner, ask an insurance agent, go out and ask the folks that are going to be able to help you. Read. There's lots of good information out there, but make sure you're reading good, accurate, solid information. Observe. Go out and watch people who are financially successful and see what their habits are. See what they're doing. Ask questions, read, and continue doing this. Realize there's an awful lot of information out there. Not all of it is trustworthy, okay? So make sure you're getting good, solid, accurate, trustworthy information. Make sure you're looking at a variety of sources so you'll see different angles and different opinions, and then this will help you form your own opinions. So if you learn, if you ask questions, if you listen to the folks on the radio, two good ones would be Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has really good podcast if you're interested. Go out there and get good, trustworthy information. This is going to help you avoid making mistakes of ignorance. In other words, you don't know what your options are, so you just do the first thing you think of. It also is going to help you avoid what we call echo chambers. Echo chambers means that you're listening to the same information from the same source, and since you're only hearing or seeing one opinion or one viewpoint, it starts to get ingrained in your head, oh, this is the only way to think. So let's use that rule of three. Go out and get 3 different sources of information so that you can make better decisions. But here's a pretty interesting graphic that sort of illustrates what we're talking about. This shows different sources of information, whether it's financial or whether it's political or whatever. On the left-hand side is the more liberal sources. On the right-hand side are the more conservative sources. And the ones in the middle are relatively unbiased or bipartisan. And you'll see there's different levels of depth. At the bottom is very, very topical, very opinionated, very simple information. As you move upwards, you'll see there's a lot more depth. And to be honest with you, some of the best ones on here, in my opinion, are BBC. They don't just treat the news as entertainment, they treat it as news. The Economist magazine, I think, is a very good one as far as getting good, solid information from all over the world. To be honest, I'm surprised it has it listed over here on the conservative side. I thought it should be more there in the middle. When you look at this, if all you do, I'm just going to pick one, if all you do is read natural news and that is your only source of information, you're going to hear the same things over and over and over again, and it's going to really bias your thought process. So what I'm going to ask you to do is use the rule of 3 and use 3 different sources of information that are trustworthy. Hopefully they're higher up on the scale here. And you know what? Let's look at all different sides. Let's look at the liberal side. Let's look at the mainstream side. Let's look at the conservative side so you can understand all different aspects of the issues. Principle number 2, nothing happens without a plan. Okay? A friend of mine says if it's not written down, it's not going to happen. What you need to do is have a plan for your life. Think about using a to-do list. If you use a to-do list every day or every week, it helps you write down what needs to be done. It helps you prioritize, and it feels really good when you can check something off. Okay? So let's have a plan for your finances. This is basically a plan for your life. There's a fellow named Grant Hill. He's a really good basketball player, played at Duke and then played in the NBA. And someone interviewed him once when he was coming up for contract negotiations, and he made a statement. He said, it's not how much you earn that's important, it's how much you spend that's important. And that was a really wise financial principle, okay? So it's very easy to spend money, but you need to think about how you use the money wisely so you can save some money so you can invest for other goals. Savings must be planned. They don't just happen automatically. So start off with a plan, come up with a written plan that's simple and easy to do. And as you get more experience, as you get more knowledge, let's expand that plan. Throughout the semester, you're going to hear me use the phrase pay yourself first. Once you get your paycheck, let's take that money and take 10% of it and put it into a savings account before you pay any of your other bills. Now you're saying, well, Doc White, why is that such a good principle? Well, let's hit the other side. A lot of Americans say, you know what, I'm going to save whatever money's left at the end of the month. And at the end of the month, there's no money left to save. So they're not actually saving anything. But if you pay yourself first, we move that money from our checking account to a savings account, you'll see less money in your checking account. And when you see less money in your checking account, you'll spend less money. So that means you're using that money even more wisely. Okay? This is in economics, we call this the income or the wealth effect. If you see a lot of money, you tend to spend a lot of money. But if we see less in our checking account because we put more money into our emergency funds and our other savings, we'll use those remaining funds a lot more wisely. And remember, folks, time is your best friend. The earlier you start to invest, the easier it is to reach your goals, the less money you have to invest, the less risk you have to take. But if you wait until 5-10 years down the road, guess what? You have lost out on some options, you've lost out on some tools, and you've lost out on the ability for your money to grow through what we call compound earnings. So nothing happens without a plan. If you've been on an airplane before, as they're doing the boarding process, they'll say, okay, welcome to Flight 2104 with continuing service to financial independence. The main cabin doors are closed. Please make sure your seat belts are pulled snug about your waist. Make sure your seats and tray tables in your upright lock position. Make sure your carry-on luggage stows in the bin above your head or in the seats in front of you. And then they say, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, an oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling. If you are traveling with others, put the mask on yourself before you see to them. And the reason for this is at altitude, you're going to pass out in about 15 to 30 seconds. If you spend that 15 to 30 seconds trying to put the oxygen mask on your child or on your grandparents or whoever you're traveling with, you're going to pass out and then you can't help anyone. But if you put that mask on yourself first, now you can help others. So this is another example, another real world example of pay yourself first. If you take care of yourself, that makes it easier for you to take care of others. So remember, nothing happens without a plan. Take time out of your life and put your goals together and come up with a plan to reach those goals. Not just one plan, 3 plans, okay? The Babe Ruth rule, the rule of 3. Speaking of 3, principle number 3 is time value of money. We'll spend an entire section on this one. The 3rd module is dealing with time value of money calculations. Don't worry, they're not that hard. We're not going to get that in-depth into the equations and the math behind it, but I'm going to show you how to calculate this stuff. But what does it mean, time value of money? Think about this. If I gave you the option, would you rather have $100 today, or would you rather wait a year to get that $100? Almost everybody I know is going to say, I'll take that $100 today. And if you look at it, there's 3 main reasons for this. Reason number 1 is risk. If you have that money in hand today, you can go out and use it for something or other. But if you have to wait for a year, you may not receive that money. So you'd rather have that $100 today rather than waiting into the future because you know you will have that money today. The second reason is inflation. Inflation just means a rise in the general price level, okay? So when the price of gas goes from $2 to $2.25, that's inflation. When that gas price goes up, it takes more cash to buy the same amount of gas, or conversely, the same amount of cash is going to buy less gas. So that dollar today has more purchasing power, and inflation eats away at that purchasing power. It reduces the value of your dollar. So you'd rather have that money today so you can spend it before prices inflate. And then the third reason is this economic principle called opportunity cost. And that's just a big fancy term for, hey, if you had that money in hand today, you could use it and improve your life. If you don't have that money in hand today, you can't do those things to improve your life. So there's an opportunity cost. You're giving up opportunities if you have to wait to receive that money in the future. And folks, here's a little tip for you. There's 5 main things you can do with cash. You can spend it. You can save it for emergencies. You can invest it for future goals. You can pay down your debts, or you can give it away to church and charities and gifts and so on. So the 5 main things you can do with cash are spend it, save it, invest it, pay down your debts, or give it away. If you have that money in hand today, you can do those things. If you have to wait to the future, you can't do those. So that's an example of opportunity cost. So the main principle in time value of money is this thing called compound interest. Compound interest or compound returns say that whatever you earn this period, well, that's going to be added into your investment and you'll earn a return on top of that next period. So we'll cover the math behind that. We'll show you some examples later on. Principle number 4, which is also module 4, taxes are going to affect your decisions. So income and payroll taxes are going to eat about 30% of your gross income. We need to find ways to have more money left in our pocket after we pay our taxes. So what we need to do is compare our investments on an after-tax basis. It's relatively simple, but it's a very important concept. And to some people, their main goal in life is to not pay taxes. So don't let the tax tail wag the dog. You don't make decisions just on taxes. We need to look at liquidity. We need to look at profitability or earnings. We need to look at safety and the risk that's involved. And here comes the tax guy. Oh no, taxes. Principle number 5, stuff happens, okay? Or to make this more fit the book, the importance of liquidity. In your plans, all of your financial plans, build in the availability of cash. So we have cash available to meet our living needs, to pay our bills, and to meet the unexpected expenses we might have. If we don't have liquid funds, if we don't have money in checking and savings, or we don't carry cash with us, we need to sell some of our longer term investments. So let's say we don't have much cash on hand. We don't have it in checking or savings, but we do have a retirement account. Well, if something unexpected comes up and we have to pull that money out, this could result in selling at the wrong time. So maybe the stock market is down at the moment. Actually, right now it's up. But it can result in getting a lower price for that asset. There may be significant tax consequences that we're going to face. And guess what? We have lost the opportunity for that money to continue growing and earning that compound return. So if we don't have this checking and savings around, we need to sell some of our other investments. If we don't have other investments, maybe now we need to sell personal assets such as our car or our house or a piece of land or whatever. And again, this is going to lead to lower prices and tax implications and lost opportunities. So we need to build in liquidity. In your checking account, make sure you always have 1 to 2 months worth of living expenses in your account. And in your savings account, let's shoot for 3 to 6 months of expenses once you get out there and hit the working world. The 6th principle of finance is waste not, want not. What does that mean? It means use your money wisely. Let's stop spending money on things we don't need. Let's start looking for better deals, using coupons, whatever it happens to be. But the quickest way to improve your financial condition is to reduce your spending. And again, I'll bet each and every one that you could probably cut $5 to $10 out of your weekly expenses without having a dramatic impact on your lifestyle. How do we do this? We need to identify the difference between our wants and our needs. From a financial planning standpoint, we need to focus on those needs first. This is going to be your shelter, your utilities, your food, your medical expenses, and so on. Your wants, this is that new car, this is that vacation, this is that big screen TV and so on that we can probably do without right now. And if we can do without it, we just saved ourselves some money. So principle 6 says, let's be smart consumers. Let's go out and comparison shop. Let's use coupons. Let's try and get the best deal that we can. Or the old saying, let's try and get the most bang for our buck. Another little tip here is take care of your stuff. Make it last a little bit longer. I'm a good example of this. I drive an old 2002 Jeep Wrangler. She's got 215,000 miles on her. She's been paid off for the last 15 or 16 years. so I don't have loan payments. I take care of her with regular oil changes, tire rotations, and so on. I don't drive it recklessly, and she has given me 215 miles of joy. The better you take care of your stuff, the longer it can last, the lower your expenses can be over time. Principle number 7, let's protect yourself against the major catastrophes. There are certain events that can happen that can destroy a family's wealth as well as the family. So we need to have the right insurance before the tragedy occurs. Going out and buying auto insurance after you've been in an accident really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We need to have the insurance beforehand. So let's identify the risks that we're going to face, and let's figure out what is the proper tool for managing that risk. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be a type of insurance. So with your insurance policies, we've got auto insurance, we've got homeowners insurance, renters insurance, medical insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, and so on. You need to understand your insurance policies, what's covered and what's not covered. Think about this. When do most people typically call their insurance agent? The answer is after they've been in an accident or after something bad has happened. A lot of people then get frustrated because they think something's covered, but they don't know for sure. So know what's covered, know what is not covered in your insurance policies. Take the time to read and understand them. For your insurances, we need to have a plan. Not everyone needs life insurance. Not everyone needs homeowners insurance. But we need to have a plan for what types of insurance we need, how much insurance we need, and what type of policy we're going to need. But let's focus on protecting our family, protecting our loved ones, protecting our wealth from financial catastrophes. Principle number 8, the risk-return trade-off. If you've ever had a finance course of any type, they've stressed this point. Something that has a very low risk associated with it typically has a much lower return. Think about your checking accounts. Those things are guaranteed up to $250,000, so they're very, very safe. But what rate of return are you earning on your checking account? For most students, you're earning 0, so there is 0 return, but there's very, very low risk associated with that checking account. Something that has higher risk associated with it tends to earn a higher return. We call this the risk premium. Something that is high risk, like investing in a stock, that stock price can go way up overnight, it can go way down overnight, so it's highly variable. That's a form of risk. We can invest in a small business, and small businesses are high risk because they can go out of business, but they can also be bought by larger businesses or be extremely profitable. But things that have higher risk associated with them tend to earn a higher return over time. In the financial world, individual stocks are going to be some of the riskiest investments that most people have, but historically they've earned a return of between 10 and 12% per year. That's pretty good. Something that is low risk, like a certificate of deposit or a savings account, it may be earning less than 1% return. So there is a huge difference in the returns you can earn based on the risk that's associated. And what you need to do is figure out what's your risk tolerance, how much risk are you willing and able to accept. I'll show you some tools we use as financial planners to assess somebody's risk and help them figure out how to invest their money or which investments they need to focus on. We're getting down to the short rows here, folks. Principle number 9, diversification. What does diversification mean? It means spreading your assets around so we're not investing simply in one thing, whether it's one stock or one company or one sector of the economy. This stems from the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Where's that come from? Well, in the old days, when everybody had chickens, they'd send the kids out to pick up the eggs and bring them back in. Well, let's be sexist here. They'd give a basket to the boy. The sons and daughters would pick up the eggs, put them in the basket. And then when they're bringing them back to the house, the boy's going to be carrying the basket. He's going to be jumping on logs and swinging this thing around. If that handle breaks or if he drops that basket, you've lost all of those eggs. So the smarter folks diversified their risk, and they gave each kid a basket so that if one dropped the basket, there was always the eggs that were left in the other one. This is a way to reduce your risk, to manage your risk over time. From an investment standpoint, diversification means let's not invest just in one company or one business. Let's spread our money around. Let's not invest just in U.S. firms, but maybe international firms. Let's invest in big firms versus small firms. Let's invest in safe versus risky firms and spread your money around. If one of those investments has a bad year, hopefully the other investments are having a good year. So what this does, it reduces your risk exposure. You're taking less risk. It smooths out your returns. In other words, the returns don't bounce around as much from highs and lows from one year to the next. However, going back to the previous principle, the risk-return relationship, since we're taking less risk, we're probably going to reduce our returns slightly. But you know what? If we can take out some of that risk, it's going to reduce your stress level. And you know what? That could be worth slightly lower returns. And then the last principle, principle 10, just do it. Folks, if you want to achieve the lifestyle that you've always dreamed about, we need to start planning for it now. We need to arm ourselves with good information, a good knowledge base. We need to have a plan. We need to realize the time value of money is crucial to you right now. But we need to understand about the taxes. We need to understand risk and diversification and liquidity. But we need to have a plan. You need to actively take control of your finances now. And the earlier you start, the easier it is, the more tools you'll have available to you. One of the biggest killers in investments and finance is procrastination. You think, oh, I can do this later. Oh, I can do this later. Well, think about all those folks that said, I'll invest for retirement later. And then when they get up to be around age 55 or 60, and they don't have any retirement investments, their chance of retiring is pretty much shot. For you folks, if you can start putting money away for retirement or for a down payment on a house or for other big goals like that, the earlier you start, the better off you'll be. So pay yourself first. Start now. Take that action. As Bo Jackson's old ad used to say, just do it. Well, folks, there's chapter 1. So these two videos have summarized what's in chapter 1. If you want to go back and read that to get a little bit more depth in some of these areas, great. Otherwise, feel free to go ahead and start with and work through the dynamic study module, the DSM for chapter 1, and then the quiz for module 1 will be up and running here soon. Next, we'll jump into module 2, which deals with measuring your financial health.